Greetings and welcome back to Once in a Six Side. This one's going to be a pretty lengthy, slow-going video, so unless you're really interested in learning how to do supports, I suggest maybe checking out one of my other videos. This is going to be an in-depth look as I go through this lovely lady here and add pre-supports to the model so that she'll be ready to print. If you haven't seen my other video yet about pre-supports, I highly recommend going and watching that one, as in that video I talk about some of the most important things to get right when it comes to doing pre-supports. And these are things you really are going to want to keep in mind when you're doing it, so please do check that video out. It's not very long, it's quick to get through, so go do that. If this is something you're really interested in doing well, I recommend starting there. Get that one under your belt, come back here and watch this. So this model is a multi-part kit. She's got an upper torso, lower torso, these two, I don't know what you'd call these like tendril thingies. They're mechanical spline cables, something or other. And then this very detailed base. I get like Mad Borg vibes from this. This, by the way, is part of Commissar Gamza's May release. And if I'm not mistaken, this is like a proxy for a Catan. Necron Catan. Don't quote me on that though, I'm not 100% sure, but the head iconography and the styling going on here, that's what that reminds me of. And good God, man. Not now, Doctor. So let's fire up Chi2 box and just start working our way through this, and I'll try and explain everything as I go, my thought processes and all that sort of stuff. One more thing real quick before we begin, I'd like to make it clear that this is not a Chi2 box tutorial. This is a supports tutorial, and what I cover here today applies to all slicers. This video, if you stick through it, it's going to arm you with the knowledge and the confidence to tackle supports for any model you encounter, regardless of the application you're using. In addition to supports, we're also going to be looking at how to deal with hollowing models correctly, repairing issues, validating your work with UV tools, plus the importance of test printing and making revisions. All right, the first thing I'm going to do in my slicer is actually change my profile to the smallest profile that I have, which is for my Photon S. Because where I can, I always want to make sure that a pre-supported file is going to be printable on as many printers as possible. And most people have this size printer, which is a 6-inch printer. So I think it makes sense to do the work here. And here we have all the parts for the model, for the base, body, cables, and legs. I'm going to start with a nice simple one, I think the base. Okay, it's pretty big and also it's solid right the way through. So I think we'll be hollowing this. That'll be the best approach. And what I'll do to start things off is just rotate this. So that looks pretty good. What I'm thinking about here is just essentially not having this large flat surface parallel to the build plate. And what I'm going to do now is just at a glance, just drop through the layers here. And I'm just looking for islands. So we can see, all right, there's a couple there. There's going to be a few islands like this. See these? Look at all these little islands. So what I think I might do instead is, if I can get away with it, let's just drop this back this way a bit, bring it over, make sure it fits the build plate. And now let's take another look, because I'm just trying to, right now I'm focusing on the orientation. If I can get the orientation right with as few amount of islands as possible, then awesome. But it looks like, just based on the geometry of this, or the topology, I should say, as it's rather complex, that no matter which way we put this, I think we're going to have, quite a few islands to deal with. That's all right. Let's try another orientation, because this side, who knows, that might be more busy than one of these. This one actually looks a little less busy. So let me recenter this and flatten by face. This is a very handy feature. There we go. It's going to pop that back down there. And let's try this base here toward the build plate. And we'll just rotate that 90 degrees, make sure it fits. Yeah, that's looking pretty good. Now let's take a look here. Okay, we've still got one there. This looks better than the other side. There's a few islands still, like here, you can see. But this is looking more promising. So that's a little rough in there, but that's okay. We can get supports on those. Not a big deal. Let's have a look at the side. I think the side's going to be okay. Yeah, I think we can work with this orientation. Let me just check the other side. Just moving up and down through the layers, looking for islands. And there's a couple little ones there. Not a big deal. Yep. Let's just go with that. I think that'll work fine. So I'm going to switch into my supports now. And let's just take a minute to quickly run through my default go-to settings. So my heavy has an upper diameter. And by the way, these are the settings I consider the most important when I'm doing this, is the upper diameter, lower diameter, and connection length. Contact depth comes into play as well, but really that's all you ever need to focus on, in my opinion. So for my heavies, and I never change these, I always just use the same setting because it serves me well. I use a connection length of 2.5 millimeters, a lower diameter of 1.1, and an upper diameter of 0.55. Then moving down to my mediums, I have a connection length of 2.75, so it's increased by 1/4 of a millimeter, a lower diameter of 1, so it's dropped by 1/10 of a millimeter, and upper diameter of 0.45, which is also dropped 1/10 of a millimeter. Then moving down to my lights, we have more or less the same story. Connection length is now increased by 1/4 of a millimeter to 3 millimeters. A lower diameter is now set to 1/10 of a millimeter lower at 0.9. And same again for my upper diameter, now at 0.35. Now, the only one I usually ever change as I'm working on something is the lights. And I will typically change these two settings here, upper diameter and lower diameter. I try to never go any lower than 2.6 and 0.8. Because once you go past that, you're sort of entering the territory of where it's only going to work for people who have like really dialed in their printers or are overexposing to compensate. And so I think it's always better just to play on the side of having the supports a little bit larger than, trying to ride that line of what's possible. So 0.26 and 0.8 works well for me in my experience. For now, I'm just going to set this back to 0.35 and 0.9 as my default light. And also this is important. Down the bottom here, I have a skate. And I think everyone should just use skates. Like, skates are fantastic. Skates are so easy to remove post-printing. They have this excellent lip and it all comes away in just one big thing. Compared to when you don't use a skate and you end up with like all these little tiny spots on the build plate where a support was, it can be a real hassle to clean those up. So just use skates. Skates are fantastic. All right. So let's switch down below and we've got a pretty simple job to start off here. It's just a big disc, but this is prone to deformation, and I'll put up some footage on screen now so you can see exactly how this will deform if we don't do it right. But essentially what we need to do is this lower half, we really need to support the crap out of this. So basically we're just going to create a ring all the way around the bottom that is super dense with supports. They're not going to be huge supports or anything. You've seen the settings, but these supports are basically going to resist the peel forces, which, if we scroll down through the layers, we can see those peel forces. So placing supports all the way around this edge here in a tight knit fashion, that's going to really help keep intact the shape of this edge, because otherwise we're going to get that deformation where it turns into kind of like a teardrop or something like that. So let's just get started. I'm going to start with my heavies, and I probably won't use any lights on the back here. This is just all going to be heavies and mediums. And what I'm going to do is just pop one right on the edge here, like so. And then I'm going to come to the very top and do the same. And I'm just going to roughly eyeball here from, let's go like this, and just pop one there and one there. So now I've divided this into quarters essentially. And I'm actually just going to do the same thing now again, and divide this into eighths. And these ones that I'm placing on the lower edge, I'm going to give a little more attention to because I want to make sure I actually get them on that very edge. Whereas these ones up here, I'm less particular about. And that's because of that deformation. We really want to keep that under control. So let's pop another one in here like so. And let's do it again. So I'm going to come in here now. I guess this would be dividing it into 16ths like so. Come up here and do these ones too. Again, not too fussed about getting these all the way to the edge. Not as important for these upper ones. And this is a big base. Let's do one more. Okay, so here's where we're at right now. These are all heavies, and I'm happy with this amount of, let's call them subdivisions all the way around. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to focus more on this bottom half. So what I'll do here is add another subdivision just on the lower half and making sure I stick to that edge. We really want to preserve this shape as it prints. We don't want it to pull out of shape. There we are. So now we're getting closer now. I'm going to do one more subdivision, but this time I'm going to switch to my mediums and I'm going to start at about the quarter mark. That's how that's looking. Now let's go to the very start here and just add a couple more in here because I think it needs just a few more right at the bottom here. Might be a bit overkill, but better to have these than not. And that's how we're looking. Now you might think this is a lot of supports, but honestly, these are quite small for mediums and heavies. So they're not going to leave much scarring. And I think it's always better to have more supports than you need than less than you need. All right, I'm just going to go around the top as well with my mediums and just fill in one more subdivision of this circle. There we go. It's looking pretty good. And then what we can do, if we just come all the way down here to the start of this print, and we just have a look at these first layers. So you can see this first one, very first layer, getting grabbed here by this large support, and it's getting grabbed here and here by these two mediums. So that's a really good, strong start. The second layer, it's now getting picked up by a couple of 3 heavies and 2 mediums. Next layer, almost reaching over here. That little bit isn't going to be an issue. And as we can see, as it grows and grows, it's being nicely supported. So as we can see, by about this point, the peel forces are starting to get a bit stronger now. So we've got this supported edge, but we have this larger surface area that's trying to pull away from the FEP each time. So what I'm going to do is just in here, I'm just going to come in with a couple more heavies just to really make sure that this is okay. So let's put 5 in. I think that ought to work. And now I'm just going to bring this all the way back up. And what I'm going to do is, and I've done this on a lot of bases and it seems to work really well, is I'm just going to run a zigzag of heavies up the back just as some extra support. And that gives us that. Now, because this is quite a large base, I'm actually going to do a couple more. So I'll do one over here and we'll do another one over here. Okay, at this point, I think that's going to print fine. However, there is definitely unsupported islands that we need to address over in this complicated topology. But before we do that, there's another thing we should address, and that is that this base is going to use a metric fuck ton, a metric fuck ton of resin, and it's going to be pretty dense and heavy. So what we're going to do first is switching out of my supports mode. I'm going to grab my hollow tool and got it set to 2 millimeters, which I find to be an excellent wall thickness for when hollowing parts. And we're just going to run that. Okay, so now our part is hollow, which is excellent. But now what's happening here is we're essentially creating a big suction cup. So if you look here, as this layer is printing, you're going to have the peel force of this dark blue area trying to come away from the FEP. But in addition to that, you're also now going to have this like suction cup force. So what we need to do is we need to add some relief for that and essentially create a hole down here somewhere to counteract that suction force. So what I'll do is come grab the dig hole tool, and 20 millimeters, that's going to be too big. Let's go with just a 3 millimeter hole. That's going to do it. And I'll just pop that right there. And so now we have some relief as this prints. Now, before I go adding bigger drain holes, what I'm going to do first is actually just go into the inside and find all the islands that now exist as a result of this model being hollow. So you can see we've got a few here. So what I'll do is bring up the underside like this, switch back into supports. I've got my heavies enabled. I use my heavies internally on hollowed models almost exclusively because I don't intend for anyone to actually go dig these out. And so it's better that they are, fixed firmly in place inside and don't come loose over time and rattle around or whatever. Like there's another one there. And we got a few over here. See how that's happened? It's switching to like a smaller version of my heavy because of the amount of room inside. So I'll just pop that over there for the moment and then just MacGyver it into place. That'll work fine. I'm going to look here for any more islands and I'm not seeing any. That looks good. Very good. Let's have a look over here. One there. Also want to pay attention to how big these islands get before they connect with anything else. So like this one here, you can see that before it connects up, it's actually, the peel forces on that are going to be, essentially this. So all of that is going to be pulling against this one connection point. So it would make sense to perhaps add a couple more here as well. Remember, it's better to over support than under support, and these are internal, so there's no real worry about like scarring and stuff like that here. And I'm just looking for more islands. If I miss any, it's okay because we can catch it later with UV tools. Another thing you can do is go in like this, so you see all the red, and just run your cursor over everything. And you can see here it's showing me the topmost point, but it'll also show me islands. So like here, see that black ring? That black ring showing me the current layer. So you can find islands that way too. I think we've got all the main ones. So now what I'll do is I'm going to add some drain holes to this just to make it easier to wash out once it's done. So let's try 20 millimeters, and where can we put it? Maybe down here. Yeah, and maybe, or actually, let me undo that. Let's do something symmetrical. Let's put got these two shafts that sort of run through the middle here. Put one there on that edge, and let's put one here, like that. Okay, now that has affected my little zigzags, so I'm just going to come back in here and add some more. That should be pretty good. Excellent. Now, let's try and tackle some of these islands. I'm going to switch over to my lights, as I reckon that's all I'm going to need here. And I'm going to come in here and have a hunt around. It's often easier to find them like this. So like here's one right there. That looks good. One there. Let's get that one. See this? It's placed one of these weird double jointed supports. I'm not particularly a big fan of these. So usually, because what's going to happen here is a large part of this edge of this support is going to bond with this as it prints. And so when you remove it, there's going to be a bunch of scarring. So I'm going to delete that. And what I'll do is I'll just add one to the side here randomly and just manually put this where I need it. So this tip I want on there, and that looks pretty good. Now, this is like almost parallel to the build plate, but you got to remember it is very small, and bridging is pretty good on resin printers. So that will be fine. That's not an issue at all. If you were worried about it, you could always, of course, come in here with another support like this and just shore it up like that. But I don't think we need it. So I just did the same thing there, just placing a support somewhere in the vicinity and then moving it to where I wanted it. See that little tiny one there? Let's get a support on it. And this is a good example of where I might actually step these down a bit because that's quite large. So let's go 0.26 by 0.8. And also my contact depth seems to have increased itself a little higher than I'd like. I'm going to set that down to 0.2. And so now we can see what that support looks like next to the others. And I think looking at this geometry, this is actually, it's nightmare fuel. Because look at all these tiny little supports, all these tiny little islands in here. It's like, man, you couldn't just like run a smoothing brush over that. That's okay. We're just going to come in here like that, add a support that hits essentially all those islands. And just what I'm doing is I'm also making sure that the body of the support, isn't like up against the model, because then the side will bond to it. It'll leave a scar and just won't look good. So that's something else to keep in mind. See that? You could make an argument to put a support on that, but I don't think it'll need it. I think that'll be okay. Let's have a look over here. See, like this too, you could probably make an argument to put a support on that, but it's already in contact with the rest of the model and it's so small. I feel quite confident that that's going to have no issue coming away from the build plate as this layer finishes curing. There's another one. Here's another funny one. In this instance, actually looks okay. So I'm just checking the distance here between it and the model, and that looks totally fine. So I'm happy with that. This one, did I get that already? Nope. You see there's like 3 islands here, and I think I can get them all with just this one, but we'll see. Because, yeah, that looks all right. Again, I'm just checking the distance between the supports and the model. I don't want any bonding there. One there, the little tiny one. That one, it is in contact, but that's definitely a support. And it might be a good idea for this one just to duplicate this support here for it and just edit that down. So let's make that 0.26, 0.8, and 0.2 just to shrink it a bit. That should be fine. When you're zoomed in like this, looking at these supports, they can look really big, but honestly, these are tiny. So try not to lose your sense of perspective when you're working like this zoomed in. Also, another tip, if you notice, I'm having difficulty like changing my view of this object because Chitubox always defaults the center point of your camera rotation to the center of the build plate. So a little tip is just move your model back so that the part you're working on is in the center. And I should have done this a minute ago, but now we can see as I orbit around right where I want it to be. So I can see just a buttload of islands right there. So I'm just going to pop that on it. And I think I might have missed some in here as well. Okay, a couple there. This one, I'm just going to move it in a bit just to try and cover more of those islands. There's another one there. I think I can get it in. Let's come back down here and just move it more that way. Nah, it's going to need another one. I'll use this one here and just that. You know, this isn't pretty, not going to lie. But unfortunately, just because of the way that this thing has been sculpted, like it's really rough. And so there's going to be a crap ton of islands in some areas, depending on the orientation of the model. So unfortunately, this part is going to suffer just a little bit, but hopefully these supports are small enough that you won't even notice it in the end result. I mean, these details that we're supporting are like so small. I don't think this is really going to be too noticeable in the end, but we'll see. I'm going to test print it after all. I'm going to need another one here. And I might just shrink that down. And also, while I'm at it, I'm going to change that to just be this size as my default for the moment while I work on these. See, that there is annoying. That little island in there. Isn't this fun? Oh, I think we made it through that bit. Okay, excellent. I probably missed a couple, but that's all right. We'll catch them later. Have a look over here. Oh, I wish this topology was cleaner. See, like that there, it's another example of an island that, well, it's not really an island. It's attached. It's jutting out a little bit, but it's totally fine. The main thing you've got to know and just keep in your mind is that you've got to support every island. Honestly, that's it. If you can just keep that stuck in your brain as you work on supporting miniatures, you'll be all right. There's not much more to it than that. Also, it's a good idea to save it because you never know. Software crashes, so just save it every now and then. I've actually got my Chitubox set up to make an automatic backup every, I think, 60 seconds. So I'm not too worried if it does crash, but it's just a good idea to save regularly because there's nothing worse than like spending ages on supporting a model and then like it crashes and you lose all your progress. So just grabbing all those little islands there. I think there's another one. Might actually just copy this one over. That's looking pretty good. Ooh. There's going to be so many more in here I've missed. I just tell by looking at it. Like that's probably one. Oh, speaking of software crashing, there it is. Wow. I don't think we lost anything there. Or not too much anyway. I lost a little bit. Here's an example of something, it's attached, right? But it's jutting out enough that I think I should put a support on it. So let's grab that, stick it there. Okay, so at this point, there's definitely more islands in there. I don't doubt it for a second. Just based on how busy this topology is, I'm almost sure of it. Like here, yep. See if we can get some ports over there. The old reach around support. It'll work. I don't love them, but it'll work. Oh, actually, pretty close. Nah, I'm not going to use that. Instead, pop one down here, grab the tip, chuck it up there, and readjust. So this one, I can be more confident, is not going to bond with the model. So that, I think, will work well. And it's grabbing that island there. Let's duplicate it. Grab that one too. See if I can spot any more. Probably in there, for sure. I'm just looking through each layer here. Oh, there's one. Chitubox is trying to tell me there's one there. Is there? Is there actually? Not really. I could use one. Sure. Just to be safe. Okay, well, it's a good starting point. So let's save this. Oh, no, I thought I'd lost my supports on the inside. Okay, yeah, let's save this out. So we'll slice it, hit save. I'm just going to chuck this on my desktop. This is funny. Chitubox down the bottom right here, it says islands, 0. That's a lie. I'm going to show you that that's a lie. So if you haven't got UV tools, get yourself UV tools and open that up. It's a free program, open source, I believe, which is pretty cool. You want to go file, open your file up, and you want to hit this button up here, the issues button. And what it's going to do is it's going to go through and analyze every single layer of your print and look for any potential problems. The main one we're paying attention to right now is islands, because we really want to support every goddamn island. The reason we want to support all the islands, and really I went over this in depth in my other video, but just to touch on it here, is that if you don't, you run the risk of cured resin remaining behind on the FEP or floating around in the vat at the end of the print, which is just not good. That could end really badly because you might not realize that it's in there, and then you go to print your next print, and as the build plate lowers into position for layer 1, it actually crushes that cured resin into the FEP, potentially puncturing it, or worse yet, cracking the LCD, which can be pretty expensive. Okay, so it's found a whole bunch of islands. What I'm going to do is sort these by area. And what area is pixels. So these are all 1 pixel islands that it's identifying. And you'll notice a lot of these are nothing that we need to worry about at all. Like that's going to print just fine. What we need to do is scroll through this list all the way. Let's go to the bottom and here we go, islands. Now, these are some serious islands that we actually do want to support. So we can see this one takes place on layer 823 with an area of 918 pixels, which is pretty crazy. So let's find that one first. So 823. So going back to Chitubox, come down here to layer 821, 2, 3. Oh, and there it is. Look at that. So I'm going to go in here and add probably a couple of heavies to this one. And just another one there for good measure. All right, that's that island. Here's another one on layer 1180. There we go. There's 1180. Oh, there it is right there. So let's grab that one. That's definitely going to show up in UV tools as well. Next one. Here's an interesting one. So this one, if we go to 1230, right. So you can see this is right here, but we don't actually see anything. The reason for that is I come up from underneath, so it should be here. In fact, we might not even see it at all. So what this is a little error that's been created as a result of hollowing this model out. Sometimes you get like weird faces that just show up as islands. At the end of this, what we're actually going to do is we're going to run this through Microsoft's 3D Builder repair, and that's actually just going to clean up all those bad faces. So it's not a big deal. So if you ever see this, a big island that's like riding an edge on the inside of a hollowed model, don't worry about it. Keep going. These are the ones we care about. So 596, 590, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. That should be right there. It is. So let's get in there with some heavies. There we go. Now, not worried about that or that. This might be a better example that actually shows up though. Let's try it. Let's have a look. 850. Oh, I was mistaken. That's legit an island. So, it doesn't hurt to check. Let's get a support on there. I'm inclined to check these as well. 656. That is along here. Oh, yep. There we go. I want to grab those. You can see those supports I just added. They've actually gone down through the drain holes I made earlier. That's why I normally wait to add the drain holes till last, just because sometimes when you place these, they can end up like really close to your drain hole. But I think that's not going to be a problem. 315. Let's have a look. I think that might be an example of some of that weirdness as a result of the model being hollow. I'm not going to worry about that. That'll get fixed up in 3D Builder. 1228. That's definitely some face weirdness. Or it might not be. We got to check. Oh, this is that same one as before. So often what will happen is these will run through multiple layers, and so they'll show up a few different times. Here we go. That looks like a Real island, 1205. Yep, there it is. Come in here and add a support on that. Oh, look, there's another one while I'm here. 1117. Yep, there it is. So as you can see, this can be a pretty tedious process, but it's got to be done. Oh boy, we got a way to go. I think what I'll do is I'm going to go through and do the rest of these and then we'll pick up there because this is going to take ages. Alrighty, that's done. Now that was probably the hardest one out of the way. Thank God. So I've saved that out. Now I'm going to close it and give myself a fresh instance of Chitubox. And let's work on something a little more fun. Let's do the body. There she is. So once again, I'm going to have a look at just what kind of islands we're working with here. This is a much simpler model. Not too bad in this orientation so far, although these islands here might be a bit annoying. Let's take a look at the other hand. Not too bad. And then she's got these spikes on her head. So what we're going to be considering here basically is which details do we want to preserve more? So in the current orientation, it's actually not bad for her head. There's going to be an island at the chin and yep, there it is. And there's going to be one at the tip of this helmet thing. Looks like there's another one here and another one over here and possibly back here too. Oh, no, that one's okay. So this is a good print orientation for her head, but is it a good print orientation for her hands? Arguably, no, it's not, because we're going to have to support her fingertips. So what I might do is let's bring her back a little bit like so. And now, that's not really improved anything at all. This is a tricky one. How are we going to do this? Bring her forward. Let's have a look here. This might actually be better because if we look at her hands now, it's going to be easy to get supports on all those fingers because they're all reasonably spread out relative to the build plate. And then her wrist. Yeah, that's looking pretty doable. It's going to need some supports on those boobies. That's okay. What about this hand? Going to need a few supports on the hand. The other option is we invert her like this, but then we're going to have to put supports on her head spikes. And maybe that's worth it. Do we want better quality hands? That's the question, isn't it? See, because I'm thinking any cleanup that needs to be done on the hands is going to be more difficult than it is on these spikes on let's call this a crown. So maybe, just maybe, this orientation makes a little bit more sense for this model. Because see, the hand now, no islands at all, which is awesome. What about this one? Maybe just one support on that finger. And the supports that go on this crown are going to be along these edges here that we can see. So, this is a tough call. What do we do? See, the reason I'm like giving so much consideration to the hands is because they're very likely to break when removing supports. So I think it's better to not have to put supports on the hands if we can avoid it. All right, hold up. Sorry to cut in here, but I'm about to make a poor judgment on how to support this model, but I've decided to leave it in because there's a lot we can learn from doing something the wrong way, and hopefully through this error, I can demonstrate just how important some of the steps here are and show you how to correct them. Okay, back to the video. Yeah, I'm going to go for this orientation, I think. Just give it a go. Just start doing it this way, and if we like it, then we'll keep rolling with it, but if we have to, we'll just start again. So, got my heavies selected. And I'm going to go through first and just drop these on the major points that are going to need them. So all these islands here. Is that an island? Maybe. Don't think so. Nah, that doesn't need support. For here, what I'll do is drop down to, oh no, I'll keep it on heavy. And I'm just going to create a few more supports on the back of her head here. This will be really easy to clean up. Let's do mediums on the shoulders, just like this. Now, I'm not worried about these points on the crown yet, but let's look at her head. So as we can see, it prints, as it's printing, the peel forces, like all of this is trying to peel away from the FEP, and all that's holding on right now is these 5 points. Is that enough? Probably not. And then at this point here, it joins up with these pins. And so whatever supports are holding these pins up are now also going to be helping to pull this away. So let's go with some more mediums. I'll just do the same thing here. So just branching out like so. I think that'll hold on. And got to remember, these are pretty small, so I don't think the scarring is going to be huge from them. I think that'll work. Consider the same thing over here with the shoulder. So all the way up until this point, it's just relying on these supports. So we're probably going to need a couple more. So let's do just a couple more heavies and maybe just a couple more mediums. So she'll need a little bit of sanding, but not a lot. Okay, let's do the crown. So we got this point here. I'm going to start with mediums. I could put it directly on the corner like that, but I don't think I will if I can avoid it. I think I'll put it around the back. Yeah, I think that will work well. Let's save it just in case. And then let's duplicate this one to there. And so if we look at this as it's printing, it probably needs one more. So let's grab some lights and we'll set this to 0.35, 0.9. Oh, is it going to let me do it? Nope, that's okay. We'll just put it there instead and then put it into position here and here. And I think that's going to work. Oh, that's so annoying. Chitu box, you asshole. I'll put it over here on the side like this. And let's put another one here. So there we go. So you can see this island as it's printing. It's getting grabbed here. And then on the sides here. And it's being supported all the way up until it joins with this body here. That should be pretty good. And they should come away nicely, hopefully. Fingers crossed. Let's do some other ones. We have a potential problem right away already. It looks like this support here is too close. And this one. Okay, now there's spacing between those supports and this, which is good because we don't want the supports to bond to it. And all right, let's come in here with let's start off with a light and we'll just put it right there. What's that going to look like? No, I think actually what I'll do is I'll support that from the bottom like that. And I'll do the same for all of these. And I'm just using lights. I think that's going to be okay using just lights for these. So I want to do as little damage to these as possible. See, that's annoying because that's too close to that. There's a risk of that bonding. So I'll delete that and do it more manually. That in there. Okay, so that's a good starting point. I think that might be an island. Yes, it is. Grab it with one of those. Okay, let's start thinking about these in terms of singular bodies that need supporting. So like each one of these strands, obviously they're not going to be held the whole time by just one support. They're going to need more than that. And if we look at what the best way to do this might be, I think it's going to be supporting them from the bottom because that's where, if we're, holding this model in front of us, that's where we're, least likely to see them. So what I'll do is just that and come in here with my lights. And these are going to be dead simple to remove, but I'm going to use as many as I can get away with. And I think at that point, oh no, I was going to say I thought there it merged with the rest of the body, but it didn't. Okay, so what we can see here, if we focus in on just that one body, it starts by getting picked up right here at the tip. And then as it goes and goes and goes and goes, there's light supports ensuring it hangs on the whole way. So I'm just going to do the same for each of the others. And just looking at everything in, isolation, I'm focusing on this one at the moment, just to make sure it's going to be okay. You can see here, this is where it connects with this neighboring one. So this may be over supporting it. I'll find out when I test print it, but I'm somewhat confident that the scarring left behind from here is going to be super easy to clean up, like just 2 seconds with a sanding stick, and it's going to look mad. Way easier than cleaning up mold lines. I mean, I could be wrong. This could be terrible, and I'll just end up supporting it the other way around and just taking the scarring on the hands. But we'll see. See, I'm stopping there because at this point, it connects with this other one next to it. And that one is already connected from the very beginning to this one. So I only need to worry about adding supports to this one up until here. And that's going to be a bit tricky. Let's go with, yeah, one of those. Okay, so this one needs to be supported up until about there, I think. A bit further, right up till about there to be safe. And then that just leaves that one, which I think, yeah, I can get away with from here, like so. Just make sure, see that one there? It's a little close to the head, so I'm going to remove it and just duplicate that one. Okay, you might, yeah, be looking at this and thinking like, you've supported that way too much. That's ridiculous. It does not need that many supports. And you know what? You're probably right, but these are pretty small. I think the scarring is going to be minimal. They're going to be easy to remove. And at the end of the day, it's better that the part prints successfully the first time around, you know? So I think this might be the way to go, but we'll find out when we test print. So I think we can call that head done. Let's move on to the shoulder now over here. So this is pretty well supported. It might benefit from maybe just a couple more mediums like here. And then I've got a island here. So let's put a medium on it and then 2 lights. That should support nicely. If we keep going, where's our next one? Here we go. Got a couple here. Same thing. Put a medium in the middle and a couple of lights on the edges. I want that to stick out. There we go. This one, I'll just use a light and use 3 of them, 3 lights. There's another one. Put a medium on this one. Medium on that one too. And that one as well. And I think this one might benefit from a couple of lights too, just to be safe. And I'll come back and worry about these in a second. I just want to get this wrist done first. So medium here. And I'm just looking at, you know, always looking at how long does it take until it connects with the rest of the model. And we can see there's a few layers here before it does. So definitely going to want to add some extra support here to that. And we got a little one there. So let's just stick 1 light on that and probably a medium on this one. That should hold on. And there's the hand, which, ooh, might need just 1 light there just to be safe. Okay, let's go back and do this whole thing. So we got a small one there. Let's get that. And just make sure that we're not too close to the body. No, we're good. This one, it's not too big. I'm going to use a medium and I think 1 light. Because look, it connects up with this one in a second. That. So that should be okay. And then this one, let's put a medium as the very first one. And let's look at the whole thing before it joins up. Okay, so it joins up there. So let's put, let's say a medium there and there and there. And then let's add a light here and a light here and a light here and a light here. Like that. Okay, so there's that arm done. I think that'll print well. Let's take a look at the other one. So I reckon a medium right there and right there. Again, just seeing how big that island gets until it touches anything else. Because that tells you, you know, how much support does it need. So it's definitely going to benefit from a couple more lights, just to be safe. This one here, that one will be fine. That one, a light will do. Keep going. Probably a medium, maybe a light on that. So let's go 1 medium. And just to be safe. Okay, that's a big one. Let's go medium, medium, and medium. Put a medium over here on this one and a couple of lights. That one there. We could probably get away with a light on that. And just going to check that from the side here. Because see how close that's touching that. So let's fix that. Let's just delete it. Let's add another one. Come on, Chitty Box. There we go. That's much better. And keep going. Probably a light for that one. Yep, looks good. Keep going. There's another one. Probably a medium on that one. And medium on this one too. Because you can see this one's on its own for a few layers there. For that long. So let's go medium and 2 lights. Just like that. Perfect. And keep going. Oh, we got some funkiness over here. Okay, so that is interesting. Let me center the hand here so I can orbit around it better. You can see you've kind of got an island showing up in the middle here. That is some weirdness from the design of the model, where this geometry intersects with the other geometry of like the wrist guard. This will probably get fixed up in 3D Builder once I run a repair pass on it. If not, we can open that up in Blender and we can deal with that, because that is a bit of a resin trap in there, it looks like. Oh, actually, I might be wrong. It's hard to say. Yeah, I don't think that's a resin trap. I think that's just a little gap. And so there's actually a little island in there. That's interesting. But I wouldn't worry about that little guy because of where it's printing. That island's pretty much guaranteed to get picked up here. So let's keep going. It's going to ignore that. And that, I think, pretty much does it for her. So I'm going to save it out, slice it. We'll run this through UV tools, just make sure I didn't miss any islands. And then I'd be happy to print that. So UV tools, file, open. Slice, save, desktop. So we're going to open my file, which is body. Going to hit the issues button, let UV tools do its thing. Okay, sort by area. And we're going to come down to, it looks like we did pretty good. There's not too many. So there's a glaring one there that I've missed on layer 948. Go back into my supports, go to layer 948. And it is over here. There it is, right there. Sometimes you have to go up a layer to see it. It's going to move it there so I can orbit around it better and chuck a light on it. I don't really want to use one of these supports. I try and avoid them when I can. So I'm going to do that instead and maybe just back that off a bit and that'll be fine. Next one, little tiny one in there on layer 662. So we'll go to layer 662. And where is that? That is in here. There it is. So come on under here with a light. And rather than drop this light here, because it's going to be really close to this wall, I'm going to take this one, which is a heavy, and pop it there. And then I'm going to shrink it down. So let's go 26 and 0.80. And that should work well. There's another one in there, layer 859. Where is it? It's around here somewhere. That's weird. It's saying it's around here, but yeah, no. False positive. Okay, so layer 706. Oh, yep, there it is. Right there. Let's get a support on that. Just a light will do it. There we go. Perfect. There's that little gap on the wrist with the island in it. Not worried about that. Here's another little one. I think this is the same one I just did. So yeah, it is. 981, that's a non-issue. That's a non-issue. So there we go. We've got it. This thing will print fine. Whether this was the best choice or not, we will find out when I test print it. But I'm optimistic. I think it'll go well. Legs. Let's do the legs. Okay, best way to do this, I'm pretty sure it's going to be to put the arse down, feet up in the air. Because again, at the start, before I do anything, I'm thinking about preserving detail. So she's got these, if we had her feet down, we'd have to support like all the toes, and that'd be not great. If we do it this way, we're just going to have these rings, which won't need much. I don't think we're going to have to support any of the corners of these like panels. No. So I think this might be the ticket. It's going to be that one there, but how hard's that going to be to get to? Okay, so what I might do is just rotate her back a bit like this, just so it's easy to get supports up to here and up to here and in here. And I think that'll do it. Maybe just rotate around like this a bit. Yeah, I think that'll be fine. So pop her in the middle and head to my supports. So I'm going to start with a heavy right there, and I'm going to use a few heavies here. So we want to really hold on to this first part. And remember, it doesn't matter about losing detail here because this is literally just a pin. It's going to be disappearing inside her torso, so not a big deal. So we're going to make sure we're holding on to that pretty well with a bunch of heavies. And again, these aren't the biggest heavies in the world. They will remove pretty easily. Let's do another heavy right there. And looking at this in context, remember, once it reaches this point, then it's also getting the help from this body and these supports as well. So until that point, that's when we need to think about supporting it. So let's add another heavy. Oh, See ya, Chitu box. I really got to make the switch to lychee one of these days, don't I? Where'd you go? Yeah, there's my backup. Haven't lost too much work. Just a few heavies. No big deal. I just really love Chitu box. I know it's kind of a piece of crap, but I just like it. I'm used to it. It gets the job done, you know? And so long as you're doing regular auto saves, you'll be all right. So a couple more heavies in here. Really want to make sure this print's okay. Want to make sure that's not too close to that so it doesn't bond. And maybe we'll finish it off with a couple of mediums. Because remember, we're only worried about this much for the moment. Put a medium there and a medium there. And let's duplicate that one out. And that's getting a bit close for comfort. So let's move it over there. Okay, now there's potential for warping here if we don't support this properly. So I'm just going to use lights and just follow this edge around just to resist any warping. And that looks pretty good. Maybe a little close here. I'm just going to back these off a bit and do a few more. Just going to follow this edge just to fight those peel forces as much as possible and try and retain this shape. Because if we don't do this, because the angle relative to the build plate is quite small, like it's a very acute angle, the potential for warping is high. So yeah, it's worth adding all these supports here. That doesn't need a support. And also, we've got such a good grip on the model at this point, we don't really need to add any more support except for the islands. Or, well, I might be wrong. If you look at the peel forces here at the butt, they're going to be pretty large. In fact, that's where the peel forces are at their largest. So just to be safe, I'm going to reinforce her butt with a couple of heavies, just like that. Those will clean up really nicely. And that'll just make sure that we definitely don't have this model detaching once we get to these buttocks. Now moving along, you can see that's not an island, thank God. That is, let's do a medium and 2 lights for this one. That should be enough. Actually, just to be safe, I'm going to go 3 mediums on this one. And this one here, I'm going to bring that in a bit and maybe back those off a bit. That looks pretty good. Yep, that'll work. And moving on, I think we're good for a while. So over here now. So this one, I'm going to put a heavy on that because it's a decent sized island. Same as this one. And then we'll go mediums. Like that. That's pretty good. I might do just a couple more on this one. This is a decent sized island, you know. And again, while I'm adding these supports, I'm only looking at them up until the point they start connecting with everything else. So this one starts connecting here, so that should be all right. This one starts connecting here. Maybe this one, I'll add just a couple of lights just to be sure. Just like that. Then we've got another one here. So that looks like the job of a medium, a medium, a medium, and just a couple of lights just to be sure. Probably 1 medium for that. I'm going to delete that and I'm going to place it manually because it was a little close to the leg. That's better. See, now it's coming in at this angle. It's not touching here. And oh, we got a few here. A little tiny one there. We'll use a light on that. Like so. Yeah, that looks okay. Yeah, there's another one right there. Light should do fine for that as well. It's a little close. I might delete that and place it a little differently. Let's try one more time. Okay, that's good. And then this one's quite small. We can do this with a light too, I believe. Just like that. Maybe 2 more lights. Or use 2 lights on this, grabbing the edges when it first appears. Like that. Yeah, that's good. Okay, we've got a few more here. Use a medium. No, let's use a heavy on the heel. And medium here, medium here. Reinforce that with some lights. This one I'm going to go 3 mediums, I think, just to be safe. And remember, the difference between my mediums and my lights is only 1/10 of a millimeter. So like, it looks like a lot when you're zoomed in like this, but it's not. Okay, it's a little more than 1/10 of the millimeter because I changed my lights to 0.26 and 0.8. But still, you get what I mean. It's not much difference. And then we're going to go medium here. I think that'll be okay. And then that medium, I'll have a light coming off it up in there. And maybe just a couple more lights on the sides just to make sure that medium's okay. That island going to print fine. I think that's that leg done. Pretty happy with that. Now, I think we've got 3 islands left. Or 2 islands. 1, 2. Yep. Nice and simple. Medium ought to work here just fine, like that. And put one here. Have a look at that on its own. A couple of lights, and I think that'll be done. I'm going to actually change my lights back to my default. See, these are very close to the leg here, so I'm going to reposition those. And I think we're good. So that's the legs done. Looking pretty good. Going to save that, slice it. Okay, we're going to open that up in UV Tools. Click on the Issues button. Going to scan through. Okay, islands. Looks like there's only a couple. So there's one right there on layer 290. So let's go back to my supports. Go down to layer 290. And where is it? There it is. Little tiny one. Right on that ball. I think a light will work just fine for that. Yep. And then, God, look at that one. It's basically nothing. We'll check it out. Layer 446. Where is it? It's in here. Oh, it's that thing. That's not even an island. Like, I wouldn't worry about that. That'll print just fine. Okay. So legs are good. Chittybox wants me to put a support there. Not going to happen. So save those. Fresh Chittybox. Now we'll do the left cable, and this is either going to be really easy or really annoying. Let's have a look. So I'm just looking at it. I'm just seeing, is this thing full of islands or maybe not? We might be in luck here. I think this is going to print beautifully. Oh, this is great to see. I think I'm just going to angle it a bit, maybe the other way. Up, like that, and then maybe back this way a bit. And maybe this way. Yeah, let's have a look at that. Is it still good? Oh, that's awesome. Love that. I love the way this has been sculpted. These soft edges, the way it what's the word? Bevels. The way it bevels around like this is just perfect for 3D printing. Because if these were hard edges, you'd have to put a support on every single one of them. But it looks like we're not going to have to do that. So I'm very grateful to the sculptor of this. Because, oh God, there's one right there. Oh, well, it could be worse. Could be worse. I'm not too worried about, I'm not too worried about that. And see that island, it looks like it's showing up on the steepest part here. So maybe I might even be able to rotate this to a point where that's not even a problem. But it's like one island. No, I'm not even worried about it. I'll support it. Not a big deal. So that's good. Let's go with that. Same thing as the legs. I'm just going to use a bunch of heavies on this first contact point. This is a pin that disappears inside the base, so not a big deal. Let's run a few up the edge as well, just like that. And a few here. All right, so that's holding on pretty damn well. So now we just have to decide how frequently would we like to support this thing. We could probably print it, assuming there's no islands. I know there's probably a couple, but assuming there was none, this would probably print like this. However, it still makes sense to support because it is long and spindly. There's potential for this thing every time it prints a layer and then pulls away from the FEP. There's potential for this to stretch and straighten out. Just picture like if this was glued to, if you were holding this end and then you pulled on this end. It's essentially what's happening every time a layer cures. So there's potential for warping. So what we're going to do is we're just going to go through and add supports every so often. Let's put one there. I'm just using lights, and I might just do every second link, let's call them. How's that looking? That's looking good. Let's keep doing that. Let's switch over to this side. Let's switch again. Might switch again. Okay, let's bring that one a bit closer just so they have those interlinking connections. And I might do the same up here. Or actually, I might just increase the amount up here, like so. Oh, I hate when it does that. Okay, I'm pretty happy with that. Let's see if we can find that island again. Actually, I'm not even going to bother. I'll just let UV Tools tell me. So I'm going to save this as left cable. Yep. Slice it. Save to my desktop. All right, UV Tools, file, open. Left cable. Okay, we got some islands. All right, 120. Layer 1574. Let's go back to my supports and go up to 1574. It's saying that's an island, but that's not an island. That's fine. That will print, no worries at all. Let me show you from the other side. You know what though? Just to be nice. 1526. Yeah, that one will definitely benefit. 1598. Where's 1598? It's saying that. So just to be safe. 1550. Oh, yeah. That's definitely an island. 1389. No. It's saying that's an island, but no, that's fine. 1448. Again, here it's saying this is an island, but it's not. 1357. Nope. 1651. Yep. That's definitely an island. 1501. Yep. There's another one. I mean, it is connected there, but yeah, you want to support this one. And 1715. That's a single pixel hard up against this edge. Not even going to worry about that. That'll print totally fine. So that is now properly supported. I'm very confident in that one printing just fine, but we'll see. You know, this is why we test print. You can have all the confidence in the world, and then you print it and you find out like, oh shit, that didn't work at all because of some obvious reason that I missed. Let's save that out. Left cable, done. That just leaves the right cable, and then I can print this. All right, I hope this is the same deal where I don't even have to add that many supports, and I think it is. Yeah, I think this is going to be easy peasy. So come in again with my heavies on the bottom. Just put heaps of them. Make sure it really holds on. Ah, Jitsu box. You've really been crashing a lot tonight. Okay, let's try that again. So I'm going to come in on the bottom with my heavies. Add a whole bunch of them, like so. Nice. Let's go up this stem as well, just to be safe. I mean, all of this is going to be buried in the base at the assembly stage of this model, so not a worry. And let's just do the exact same thing here. Let's go with let's start here and then, oops, go with every second one. A little bit of weirdness on these ones. I'd prefer not to have that weirdness. So let's go with here. And just making sure these aren't getting too close to our model. Okay, gonna slice it, save it to my desktop, and then go to UV Tools, File, Open. This was the right cable, so I'll open that up. Issues, let it do its thing. By the way, if I sound tired as well, it's because it's currently 6:10 a.m. in the morning and I've been up all night. I'm not complaining. I'm a night owl. Got to burn that midnight oil to get stuff done. Oh, and look at this. Not a single island. Terrific. What a great way to finish off that model. So I've now got all the parts pre-supported and validated with UV tools. So the only thing left to do is send it all to the printer. Now I'm going to change this over to my Mono X so that I can actually fit everything. And I'm going to slice this, start the print, and go to bed. And I'll be back tomorrow to see how this all went. So here you can see me removing the supports for our first test print. And so far, so good. The supports came away nicely from the base, and it's looking pretty good. The edge around the bottom has been preserved nicely, and all the fine detail appears to be rendered cleanly. Same goes for the pipes and the legs. These supports all came away great, and the parts look good. However, this is why we test print. The head here, I completely misjudged in the slicer, and as a result, well, just look at what happened to it. So I'm glad that this happened, because now I can show you what happens when you misjudge a model in your slicer. I was thinking she would be a lot larger than she is, and therefore these head tine things would be a lot sturdier. However, they are extremely delicate. So I absolutely made the wrong call here and over-supported the crap out of these, making it next to impossible to remove without damaging the model. Taking a closer look at the parts now that they're washed and cured, we can see the base looks great. However, and I completely missed this, there's a hole right there in the side. Yeah, right there. This must have been an error in the topology from the beginning that was exacerbated when I hollowed the model. Something I was supposed to do before printing this base was repair any issues, and I guess I just completely forgot because it was so late in the day and I just wanted to be finished. So we'll take a look at how to do that soon. So here's the legs, and these turned out perfect. Same goes for the cables, so we don't need to make any adjustments there, which is great. As for the top though, taking a closer look now, we can see my poor judgment in all its glory. The head thingos are absolutely destroyed. The cleanup on the shoulder and the top of the head are worse than I predicted, but as I wrongly prioritized, the hands are perfect. Now, before we jump back into the computer and I show you my process to revise the work and repair that base, I'd just like to take a quick second to ask a small favor of you. If you're finding this video valuable in your own 3D printing journey, please consider sharing it to a community, whether it's a Facebook group, a subreddit, Discord server, forum, or even a private message between friends. This video has been a lot of work to put together, and I'd like to reach as many fellow 3D printing enthusiasts and dabblers as possible. I'm on a bit of a mission to try and raise the quality of pre-supported files overall in our little hobby, and the best way to do that, I think, is to make videos like this that can then help people improve their pre-supported files, which I believe benefits everybody and strengthens 3D printing's viability over traditional model making. So thank you very much for your help. Now let's go nail the final supports for this bad girl. Okay, so that clearly was the wrong call, but hey, that's why we test print, so that we can discover our stupidity. So I think at this point I've got two options. I could either retain this orientation and just dial back the supports on these crown things and hope that they'll come away easier next time, or I could just change the orientation completely and have it so that those are printing upwards and won't need any support at all. I think what I'll do is I'll do both and print them both again and see how it goes. So this one I will keep probably in that orientation. I might adjust it a bit, but let's start with this one. I'm going to go in here and just dial these way back. This one here came away fine, so I don't think I need to adjust that. Okay, so that leaves me with just the very beginnings of each island supported. So what I'll do is I'll go in with some more lights, but I'll actually dial them back a bit and I'll use less of them. So changing this to 0.26 upper diameter with 0.8 lower diameter. This should work better, but this still may be the wrong call, but we'll find out. So again, just hunting through all the layers of these islands, finding the point where they connect with the rest of the model. So this one here doesn't connect until right there. See if that's enough. Okay, and the other side. It's a little close. Okay, so there we go. We've got basically the same thing, but just a lot less supports, and the supports that are there are smaller. So I think that has a much better chance of working, but I'm still not convinced now that it's the best way to go. So let's do this whole model again, but from a different orientation. So I'm just looking at the hand here first to figure out roughly how many supports I'm going to need to add here, and if they're going to be easy to get to or not. Like in here at the wrist, looks a little tricky, but maybe not impossible. And then the other hand, this one looks pretty forgiving. And then I might see if I can get away with just rotating it back a bit to try and eliminate this island here on the chin. There's probably not going to be anything I can do about this one. I'm going to have to get a support on that somehow. So let's go back a bit and let's try that. That's made a new island over here. Okay, let's go back this way. And that's made new islands over here. Okay, I think what I'll do is actually just stick with this orientation. And we'll just give that a whirl. All right, so let's reset this and switch over to my heavies and start right at the bottom. Again, because this angle relative to the build plate is pretty acute, we're going to want to make the density of supports around here quite high just to resist those peel forces and any deformation that's going to be trying to take place. Do a couple more heavies and then switch to mediums. Okay, that should hold pretty well. Now there might be an island here on the back. Yep, right there. I'm just going to use a light on that one. And is there another one? No, that's fine there. That probably will show up in UV tools as an unsupported island, but that is supported because it's attached to the rest of the model, and it's so small that, yeah, that won't fail. Okay, let's go medium there, and bring this back and look at them in context so you can see how big this gets before it connects with anything else, and can tell it's going to need a couple more supports, so I'll just throw some lights on it. And I'll do the same with this one here, but I'll dial them back a bit. So 26 and 0.8 just on there. This bit here is almost parallel to the build plates, so I think just 1 or 2 in there would be a good idea, just to fight any warping. Same thing over here. This one, probably use a medium. I think just the one medium ought to work fine. This one here, let's go with another medium and reset my lights and put one of those. That should be enough for that island. And here as well, I'm just going to set this back down to 0.6, 0.8, put one right there and there. So that should hold. And then let's do this thing. So a heavy right there and a medium and then lights. That should be enough. There's another island there. So let's make that one a, reset this to my default, put one of those there, move it away a bit. That should be good. Maybe a couple more, just to be safe. Extra small ones. Okay, so that one, get a medium and a couple of lights. And you can see the angle of the arm is starting to pitch away a bit more from the build plate now. So I'm not too worried about throwing supports on there. I don't think it needs it. Got a couple of tiny islands up in here. Let's put one, let's duplicate this one. And there's another one here, but that one is interesting because it's so close to this, it's more than likely going to bond, but just to be safe, it's a good idea to support it. You'll support every island. And that one there's a little close to the model here. I'm pretty sure that's going to bond. So I might try and find a better way to do this. Maybe from this side. Yeah, that looks better. Let's save this out before it crashes and keep looking. All right, fingertips over here. A few more on the wrist. One right there. Lights should work fine for those. Fingers crossed. All right, I'm going to set this back to my default. Put a couple there. Because again, you see here, we're back to being parallel with the build plate. And ChisbyBox is warning us with that, with the color change here to red. Put one there. Okay, now looking at these fingers just on their own. So this one here doesn't join up until there. So can it print all of this fighting these peel forces on just that one support? I'm not sure. I don't want to risk it, so I'm going to add more. And it's the same story for this finger as well, and this one. Maybe not this one. I might put 2 there just to be safe, but these ones here I think definitely are going to need some more. So 1 there. Actually, let me delete that and set this back to my extra fine light support. I think a couple extras on that one will help. See, for these fingers, it's kind of a balancing act. You want to support them enough that they definitely print, but you don't want to over support them to the point where it becomes high risk that they break when removing the supports. So I'm trying to strike that balance here. All right, let's do the other arm. We'll go heavy and do a medium and then lights, which I'll reset to my default. And we'll just do a couple of those along there. That, if we look at that as it prints, should be okay. Let's put a light on that. It's going to move it over, duplicate it, 2 lights. that there, when you do this, that'll probably register as an unsupported island in UV tools, but it's totally fine. 3 here, medium, light. Do the same thing here. Do 2 lights side by side, and then I'll switch to my smaller light. Okay, they look pretty good. There's another one there. Gonna place that there so I can then maneuver it better to where I want. And technically there's an island there as well, but it's the same kind of thing as earlier. It's attached here. It'll even probably weld itself in this little gap as well, just because it's so small and the proximity to the model. I think we can leave that. I'm going to change the size of this one to my default light. And maybe add one more, just to be safe. Okay, that looks good. Let's look at the hand. All right, let's do this one. Go medium will be too big. Yeah, we'll just use my smallest light and do a couple. Yeah, let's go 3 again. I'm tempted to put more just because, so from this layer all the way up to this layer, we're relying on these 2 tiny supports to hold on against these peel forces. I'm going to risk it because I really don't want to over support these because they'll be just way too easy to break. All right. And so I think that ought to do it. I'm going to save this out and validate it in UV tools, and then we'll print it again along with the other one that has the reduced support now on these head tine things, and we'll see which one turns out better. I've got an idea that some of these fingers might fail, but then again, I could be wrong. We could have the opposite problem where I accidentally snap off some of the fingers with the supports when I'm removing them. I doubt that. I'm leaning more towards that they just outright fail, but we'll see. And that finger there, that doesn't need any support, which is good. Completely neglected the head. Let's do that. And the chest, which doesn't need any, which is good. The head is going to need one under the chin. See if I can get one up there. It's going to be tricky. Do one like that. That'll work well, and they're generally pretty easy to remove. The other option would be put one over here and then do it like this. Both options are fine. This is getting a bit long, but it's not too bad. So you want to make sure when that island first appears, it's fully covered by the support, or as much as you can. What I'll do is just increase the contact depth of this one. Like that, just so I've got more contact, because this layer will be fine. This layer will be fine. This layer, those peel forces are starting to increase a bit. And then at this layer, it connects with the rest of the model, so we can worry less about this support doing its job. Or rather, at this point, the support has done its job. So I think that should be fine. The next one's going to be that chin thing. There we go, tip of the faceplate. And then it looks like there's... Oh no, we're in luck. If there was one in there, that would be super annoying, but thankfully there's not. So I'm just going to copy this. Oh, shit. Fuck you, Chitubox. We're good. Yeah, so this one, just copy this, put it over here, reduce the contact depth 0.2, put it there. That should be good. Let's have a look. Okay, so this one, will that support hold up all of this island as it prints? Maybe, maybe not. So I'm going to try and squeeze another one in here using just a light, and I'll reset that to my default. There we go. And that looks pretty good. Whenever Chitubox places a support like this, I always want to check if this isn't like super close to the body. I want to make sure that there's room, that it won't bond. And I think to be safe, let's see if we can get one over this shoulder. That is very long. Let's do it a bit higher. And you can see here at the shoulder, that's super close. So we'll lift that up, and I think that'll work. That should be okay. All right, this one here, let's chuck a medium on that. And to do that, I'm going to put it over here and then move it into place like that. Get that a bit closer. And then what I'll do is fan this out with some lights. This, that, and that should be enough. And then we've got another one over here. Yeah, that works. I'm just going to increase this to 0.45 and 1, so that's my medium size. And I think that'll be good. Almost got another one there, but not quite. That'll print fine. Here, oh, there's one there, I think. Yeah, that juts out enough that I should put a support on it. And I'll just go with an extra light, just like that. And that actually probably could use some as well, because it is parallel to the build plate. So at this point, you got to think about this. Like, this is really flat and very thin. So it's going to be potentially warping as it peels away from the build plate. So if we can add something to it to fight those peel forces, then all the better. So I'll just put a couple of lights on there. And yeah, see, this is too close. I'm going to delete that. And let's put one there and just manually do it that way. And that should be good. But the length of these now is probably a little bit too much for this particular setting. So to be safe, I'm going to boost that back up to 0.35 and 0.9. Same for this one. And that should be good. See if there's any more I've missed. Yeah, I think we're golden with that. So what I'll do is save this out now and yeah, validate it with UV tools, print them both and see how we did. Okay, got a few islands right there. Layer 402. Let's have a look. And that is near this arm. Oh, yep, there it is. This is why we validate. I'll put a medium on that one and maybe just one extra light ought to do. Because here at this point, it starts like that and then here it joins there. And so it'll join here as well with this extra light. So that should be good. Let's have a look at the next one. 588. 588. There it is. It is on one of the wrists, this one, and I think it's referring to this one here, which probably should put one on it now that I look at it again. So let's see if we can take this one here, put it like that. Yeah, that should work well. Next one. Here's an example of one that's totally fine. So this island is like one of these long ones, and it's already been supported, so I'm not worried about that. Same thing again here. That 564. That is some weirdness in there. Oh yeah, you can kind of see there's like an island in there. I'll just, there, that should be fine. And this is just all like single pixel stuff. Not worried about any of that. Okay, that's it. All right, and before I forget, we need to sort out the problems with this base as well. So I don't know how I missed this. I mean, look at that hole. That is glaring. And I think there might be a couple of others as well. Yep, there's one there on the other side. I think that's it. So there's 2 holes. So we absolutely need to repair those. So what I'm going to do is save this out as an STL file, and I'll just stick that on my desktop. And now that file there, I'm just going to open it up in 3D Builder and click on Import Model. Right away, 3D Builder has identified that there's issues with this. And all I've got to do is click this dialog down the bottom right here, and it's going to try and fix them. Now, I think it'll work all right. 99% of the time, 3D Builder does a great job at repairing models. If it doesn't, then we can always take it a step further and work on this inside of Blender. However, let's start here and see if we can do it. And if we can, great. So I'll just let that run and do its thing. When you repair models like this, it can take a little while. All right, so it looks like 3D Builder has repaired the model, and looking at it closely, I can see it's just basically stitched up this hole with a bunch of faces, and there are some shading errors with it, but I think that's going to be okay. And then same thing down here as well. So that looks fine. I'm happy with that. So at this point, what I'll do is save this out again. So just hit save. And then if I bring that back into Chitubox now, and we compare it next to this one, put them side by side, yeah, that looks much better. So you can see this one's got this great big hole in it over here, and this one has this little patch here. So that's fantastic. Furthermore, if we go down through the layers and we find where that hole is, so you can see really clearly here on the non-repaired model, how it's just a mess where there's this exterior faces, but then nothing inside until over here. There's basically just a giant hole, whereas over here, that is no longer an issue and 3D Builder has patched it up. So that's really good. So we'll print that off and see how it goes compared to the first one. Here she is now printed upright, looking pretty promising. Head tines all intact. Removal of the supports on the hands came away quite easily, leaving those delicate fingers where they should be. And overall, this is just a far superior result to my previous attempt. I lost my footage for the support removal of the other one, but here you can see that this one did not escape damage either, despite fewer and smaller supports on those face bars. So supporting this gal upside down was never the right call. And I hope my experimenting here with that helps you better understand the role choosing a print orientation can play. And here's a closer look at the upright one now that she's all washed and cured. And as you can see, it's turned out near perfect now. All the handlebars are there, fingers look good, the edge around her torso where the joint is has kept its shape, scarring is minimal or hidden. This is the result we wanted. Here's the reprint of the base, which you can see now is solid all the way around that edge, no more weird holes, and those pipe pieces drop right in there nicely. The sculptor did a good job with his tolerance here, which is always nice to see. And there you have it. I hope this video has been valuable to you and that I was able to get across some of the important concepts behind doing supports well. It might not look it, but this was a mission to edit and has taken me over a week to finish. So if I may, I'd just like to remind you to consider sharing this one around. Perhaps if you know of someone currently doing pre-supports that aren't up to this standard, for example, they have lots of unsupported islands, or they're impossible to remove, or they fail frequently, etc., please send them to this video, because you can have a cool sculpt, but what good is it if only technically proficient and experienced people can reproduce it? So do me a favor, share it around, spread the gospel of quality pre-supports. I thank you very much for making it all the way to the end of this video. I hope you've learned something, and I'll see you again shortly. Bye-bye.